Shuttered Souls. Chapter 1. The pizzeria door swung open with a jingle, and the smell of garlic and melted cheese followed the group into the night. "All right, 2 pepperonis and a box of garlic knots," said Micah, balancing the boxes like a sacred offering. "This is what happiness looks like." "Facts," Zay nodded, unlocking the car. "This should hold us down through the first kill scene." Behind them, Emma and Ellie, the twins, walked arm in arm, their cheer bags slung over one shoulder, their giggles in sync. It was one of those perfect Friday nights. No parties, no pressure, just food, horror movies, and their people. But as they reached the curb, Ellie tugged at Emma's sleeve. "Wait, what's that?" Across the street, tucked between a closed ice cream shop and an old record store, stood something none of them had noticed before. A photo booth, not the digital kind either. This one looked vintage, red siding, faded curtains, and a glowing "Take a Memory" sign pulsing above it in yellow bulbs. "Was that there earlier?" Emma asked. Micah shook his head. "No way, I would have seen that." Zay frowned. "That thing looks like it crawled out of 1987. Ellie crossed the street, curiosity taking the wheel. "Let's take one. Group photo. For tradition." Micah groaned playfully. "The tradition we just made up?" "Exactly," Emma smiled. They all crammed into the booth, warm pizza boxes stacked just outside. The space was tight, smelling of old paper and cheap plastic, but it was fun, cozy. They made silly faces. Emma flashed peace signs. Zay threw up a flex. The booth whirred. A few seconds later, it kicked out a small photo strip. 4 faces, laughing, and something else. Behind them, in the dark curtain backdrop, were 2 faint glowing orbs, eyes, just above Emma's shoulder. "What the hell is that?" Ellie whispered, holding the strip closer. "Camera flash," Zay offered, already brushing it off. Micah squinted. "Yeah, that or a glare. These things always glitch." Emma turned the photo upside down, then right side up. "Still creepy." They laughed it off, stuffing the photo in one of the boxes and heading back to the car. But no one said much for the first few minutes of the drive. By the time they hit the freeway, the mood lifted. "I still can't believe we're doing college together," Zay said, tapping the steering wheel. "We made a pact," Ellie replied. "No separating." "Wrestling team isn't ready for us," Micah said, pointing to himself and Zay. "And neither are the dorms. We're gonna run that place." "Cheer squad's already calling dibs on us," Emma added. "Tryouts are next week." They'd met freshman year, cheerleaders and wrestlers. A school assembly turned into hallway flirting. Hallway flirting turned into lunches, movies, summer vacations. And now, they were 4 years deep, more family than friends. The twins' parents were out for the weekend, visiting family in upstate New York. That meant the whole house to themselves. No curfews, no rules, just horror movies, garlic knots, and late-night memories. The car pulled into the driveway, porch light buzzing, quiet neighborhood, just like always. Micah grabbed the pizza boxes, Zay followed with drinks, and the girls raced ahead, unlocking the door with the spare key hidden under the flower pot. "Let the night begin," Emma said, flipping on the living room light. No one noticed the photo strip slip from the box and fall to the floor as they walked in. No one noticed how the 2 eyes in the picture had changed position. Now, they were staring straight out. Chapter 2. The house filled with the scent of melted cheese and garlic as the group made their way inside. Shoes were kicked off, hoodies tossed on chairs, laughter bounced off the walls like it had 1,000 times before. Micah dropped the 2 pizza boxes onto the coffee table and opened them with a flourish. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present Happiness in cardboard. Garlic knots are already half gone, Zay said with a mouthful. You animals. Emma laughed, grabbing the remote. All right, someone cue it up. Ash and Jack, movie 1. Let's see what all the hype is about. Micah flopped onto the couch and turned on the TV. Everyone's been posting about it. Supposedly the scariest thing since, like, birth. I heard it's based on a real guy, Ellie added, curling into the corner of the couch. Like, the mask he wears is someone else's face or something. Good, Zay smirked. I want nightmares. The menu screen loaded. Ominous music hummed through the speakers. Lightning flashed outside. Again, perfect timing. It was like the universe wanted this night to feel haunted. I gotta pee before we start, Ellie said, hopping up. Emma was already behind her. Come with you. Of course, Ellie replied. You think I'm walking these creepy hallways alone? The boys barely noticed as the twins disappeared down the hall. They were too busy arguing over whether pineapple on pizza was a felony. Down the hall, the light above the bathroom flickered as the girls stepped out. They were laughing about something, probably the food baby forming in their stomachs, when Emma suddenly stopped. Ellie, she whispered. Ellie turned. What? Emma pointed toward the mirror at the end of the hallway. There, faint and impossible, was a third reflection. Same height, same clothes, same face. But different. This girl wasn't walking forward like they were. She was gliding sideways, face turned toward the mirror, her mouth stretched into a crooked, unsettling smile. Do you? Ellie began. Then the reflection snapped its head toward them, like it heard their thoughts. Ah! They both let out short, sharp screams and bolted back toward the living room. Micah shot up from the couch, dropping a slice of pizza. What the hell? Zay was already halfway up. You good? The twins stormed into the room, breathless. There was someone, Ellie started. In the hallway, Emma finished. It looked like another us. A third one. Micah blinked. You mean a reflection? No, Ellie said quickly. It was wrong. It moved sideways. It was smiling at us. Zay tried to play it cool. Maybe the mirror's warped or something. Old glass can do that, you know? Emma gave him a look. You didn't see it? Micah scratched his head. I mean, this house is creepy. But it's probably just nerves. We're about to watch a horror movie. Minds are already playing tricks. The twins exchanged a glance. They weren't convinced. But for now, they didn't want to be the weird ones. Not tonight. They returned to the living room, curling into their spots as the opening credits of Ash and Jack began to roll. The lights dimmed, the room quieted, and the reflection in the hallway mirror slowly faded from view. Chapter 3. Halfway through the movie, the pizza boxes were nearly empty, their contents reduced to a few crusts and smears of grease. The garlic knots were long gone, and a blanket of food coma had settled over the group. On screen, Ash and Jack was already wreaking havoc, the eerie music, the flickering lights, the creeping camera angles. The twins were half hiding behind pillows, and Zay had officially lost track of how many times he whispered, "Oh, hell no," under his breath. This movie's wild, Micah said, eyes wide. Told you, Ellie replied, clutching her soda. It's got that old-school evil vibe. Emma nodded. Cursed mask, creepy setting, 10 out of 10. Zay suddenly groaned and pushed himself up off the couch. All right, pause it. I gotta hit the bathroom before he starts skinning somebody. Micah grabbed the remote. Hurry up, man. We're getting to the good part. Zay chuckled and took a step toward the hallway. Then, creak. They all froze. Another creak followed, this time heavier, like slow, deliberate steps from upstairs. Zay turned back around, his face serious now. "You guys hear that?" "Yeah," Micah said slowly. "Upstairs?" Emma sat up straighter. "No one's supposed to be up there." Ellie's hand instinctively found her sister's. "You don't think—" Micah was already trying to rationalize. "Old house, pipes, floorboards settling." "No," Zay said. "That sounded like footsteps." The room went still. A long moment passed, as if the house were listening to them now. "I think we should check," Emma finally said. "Just to be safe." "Yeah," Ellie added. "Maybe a window was open and something got in." Micah nodded, though he didn't look thrilled. "Strength in numbers." They moved as a group, flashlight from someone's phone lighting the way. The staircase groaned beneath their feet. Everything felt colder up here, like the warmth from the pizza and laughter downstairs had no place beyond the last step. The hallway was quiet, still. Then they saw it, an open window in the twins' bedroom, curtains blowing gently inward. "There," Ellie said. "That's probably it." Micah moved to close it. No signs of anything else. No claw marks, no feathers, no wild raccoons tap dancing. Emma smiled weakly. "Appreciate the optimism." Zay double-checked the closet and under the bed just in case. All clear. Still, no one said it, but they all felt it. That wrongness. The kind that wasn't proof of anything, but felt like something was there. Emma stared into the hallway mirror again as they walked back out. She hesitated. It showed 4 of them now, just like it should, just like always. But it still gave her that gnawing feeling in her gut. They returned to the living room, sank into their cushions, and hit play. Ash and Jack resumed his hunt. But now the shadows in the corners of the room felt a little darker, and the reflection on the black TV screen, just before it brightened again, seemed to hold on to something else for a moment too long. Chapter 4. The screen faded to black, and the final scream from Ash and Jack echoed into silence. The credits rolled in red, backed by an eerie piano tune that felt like it was still playing somewhere deep in the house. "Yo," Zay exhaled, wide-eyed. "That was insane." Micah leaned back against the couch, shaking his head. "Top 5. Easy. That mask is gonna haunt me tonight." Ellie rubbed her arms. It felt too real, like that whole based on a true story tag wasn't just for marketing. Emma stood up, stretching. "Okay, enough murder, wine time." She and Ellie padded into the kitchen, bare feet light on the tile. Emma opened the cabinet above the microwave and pulled down a chilled bottle of pink wine. Ellie reached behind it and snagged a little bottle of whiskey, the kind their dad kept around for emergencies. "This counts, right?" Ellie smirked. Emma uncorked the wine. "Emotional emergency." As Ellie grabbed 2 glasses, her eyes flicked to the hallway, toward the mirror. She didn't say anything, but the image from earlier still burned behind her eyes, that sideways smile, that unblinking stare. Emma must have seen the look in her face because she leaned closer. "You thinking about the hallway again?" Ellie hesitated, then nodded. "And the footsteps. This place has never felt weird before." "I know," Emma said softly. "It's probably just nerves. The movie, the pizza, the haunted photo booth from another dimension." Ellie laughed under her breath. "Yeah, that too." They poured the drinks and made their way back toward the living room. "I still don't like that we saw something, though," Ellie said. "Even if we laugh about it. I know what I saw. It felt wrong. Emma nodded. I saw it too, but I'm not letting one weird thing ruin our night. We're fine. We're together. Let's just enjoy the rest of it. They returned to the living room where the boys were setting up the TV for a game, controllers already out, the screen lit up with flashing menus and lo-fi background music. Micah looked up. Ooh, bartender service. Ellie handed over the whiskey with a smirk. Only for people who don't scream during movies. That wasn't a scream, Zay protested, already unscrewing the cap. That was a manly yell of terror. Emma rolled her eyes, settling back on the couch. Micah picked up a controller. All right, let's run a couple of rounds before we knock out. I'm in, Zay said. But first, bathroom, no ghosts allowed. He disappeared down the hallway. The rest of them laughed and raised their glasses. Behind them, the mirror in the hallway caught the dim light of the living room and reflected just a little more movement than there should have been. Chapter 5. Zay stretched as he walked down the hall, still chuckling to himself. No ghosts allowed, he muttered again, mocking his own nerves. The hallway was quiet, still, just like before. He reached the bathroom, flicked on the light, and shut the door behind him. The house made its usual settling noises, nothing out of the ordinary. He stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, smirking. You look too good to die tonight. But as he turned to the toilet, the lights flickered. Then, everything went out. Pitch black. The kind of dark where even your own hands disappear. What the hell? Zay's voice was barely a whisper now. He fumbled for his phone, instinctively reaching for the flashlight. His foot moved forward. Click. A wire snapped beneath his heel. It was so fast he barely registered the sound. Just a flash of pressure, then the feeling of falling. A loud, wet crack echoed as his head slammed against the edge of the porcelain sink on the way down. He collapsed hard onto the tile, unmoving. Silence followed, thick and suffocating. The wire, now curled loosely by the sink's base, was nearly invisible in the dark. A tripwire, thin fishing line, strung low, tight, designed to go unnoticed. The kind of thing someone would only see if the lights were on. The bathroom door remained shut, no screams, no thud loud enough to raise concern. To the rest of the house, it was just Zay. Taking a while, and on the far end of the mirror, faint and distant like a trick of the light, two glowing eyes watched silently, retreating into the glass. Chapter 6. 10 minutes had passed since Zay disappeared down the hallway. The movie was long finished. The laughter had dried up, and the house, still wrapped in unnatural darkness, felt heavier than before, like something was watching from the walls. Micah stood near the window, squinting outside. Street lights are out too. Power grid? Ellie asked, hugging her arms. Emma shook her head. The weather's fine. No lightning, no wind, just out. And no Zay, Micah muttered. The girls exchanged a look. That reflection, the footsteps, now this. The silence of the house was no longer calming. It was claustrophobic. Okay, Micah said, forcing his voice to stay steady. Let's find some flashlights, probably in the kitchen junk drawer or under the sink. They moved together, the only sound the quiet shuffling of feet. Every creak of the floor felt sharper now. Emma opened the drawer near the fridge. Found one. I've got 2 more, Ellie said from under the sink. She tossed one to Micah and clicked hers on, the beam catching on specks of dust in the air. Micah turned on his and swept it toward the hallway. All right, let me go get Zay, probably taking forever on purpose. He didn't say it out loud, but he was nervous too. His voice had that too loud edge, the kind people use when they're trying to sound brave enough to believe themselves. As he walked toward the hallway, the darkness swallowed him quickly, flashlight bouncing against the walls. The twins stayed back near the kitchen, their beams crisscrossing in shaky patterns. Micah stopped just short of the bathroom door. "Zay?" he called out. No answer. He waited, hand on his hip. "Yo, quit messing around. Seriously." Still nothing. A beat of hesitation, then a dry laugh. "Okay," he called back over his shoulder. "This clown's definitely trying to scare us. Probably hiding behind the shower curtain, waiting to jump out." Emma rolled her eyes. "Tell him to stop being a horror cliché." "Zay," Ellie called, "get your dumb ass out here." Micah chuckled again, more relaxed now. All right, let me drag him out." He reached for the doorknob, fingers wrapping around the cool metal. Snap! A violent crack echoed through the hallway, followed by a sharp flash of blue-white light. Micah's body jolted, muscles locking mid-motion as he dropped the flashlight. It clattered to the ground, spinning, his hand seized around the knob, held there by invisible force. His feet lifted an inch off the ground, then silence. The power that surged through him was brief but brutal. He dropped to the floor with a heavy thud, limbs twitching once, then still. The flashlight lay beside him, beam pointed upward now, casting flickering shadows across the ceiling. Back in the kitchen, the twins looked toward the hall, brows raised. "Did something fall?" Emma asked. "Micah?" Ellie called. "Stop scaring us." They waited, but Micah didn't answer. Chapter 7. The hallway was darker now than it had any right to be. Emma and Ellie crept forward, flashlights trembling in their hands. Neither said a word. They didn't need to. The thud they'd heard moments ago was still hanging in the silence like a warning, and Zay and Micah still hadn't come back. The girls inched past the kitchen and toward the hall, each step softer than the last. At the end of the corridor, something caught the light. A flashlight, still on. Lying on the floor, its beam flickering against the wall. "Micah?" Emma whispered. No answer. They moved closer, slow and unsure. That's when they saw it. A body, sprawled out in front of the bathroom door, face turned upward, limbs twisted in a way that didn't look staged. But still a part of them didn't accept it. "Is he playing dead?" Ellie said quietly, her voice cracking. Emma took another shaky step forward, her light sweeping over the figure. It was Micah, and he was smiling, but not like himself. His face was frozen, wide-eyed and locked in a permanent grin, the kind someone might have in a photo right before the flash. The girls stopped moving. "No," Emma said, her voice small now. "No, he's not playing." Ellie let out a gasp that turned into a scream. They bolted. Back in the living room, their footsteps pounded down the stairs. Ellie dropped her flashlight. Emma slammed into the wall trying to reach the front door. Locked. The back door, locked. They tried the side door by the laundry room. The deadbolt was stuck, as if it hadn't been touched in years. No, come on," Ellie shouted, tugging at it hard. Emma ran to the window, phone already in hand. 0 bars. She held it higher. Nothing. She turned off Wi-Fi. On again. Still nothing. "Ellie," she said, panic rising fast. "No service." Ellie looked down at her screen. Same thing. No signal. No connection. "Why?" The house had gone dead in every way. No power, no signal, no way out. Then they heard it. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from upstairs. The twins froze in place, wide eyes staring at the staircase. They weren't alone, and whatever was upstairs was moving. Chapter 8. Ellie and Emma crouched together behind the kitchen island, backs pressed into the cabinets, flashlights clutched tightly in their trembling hands. The glow from their beams was off now, the only light in the house coming faintly from the bathroom doorway, where Micah's flashlight still lay flickering like a dying heartbeat. It had been minutes since the scream, since that thing smiled at them in the hallway. Neither girl had spoken. The silence had weight now, heavy, thick. And then, "Ellie?" came a voice from the hallway. The girls snapped their heads up. It was Zay. Ellie's blood ran cold. "Emma?" Micah's voice followed. "Come on, we were just messing around." The two girls blinked at each other. "What?" Ellie whispered. "That's not possible. That's not possible." They pressed closer, both listening. "We didn't mean to scare you like that," Zay's voice continued. "We thought it would be funny." Micah added, "Come out. Seriously. We'll explain everything." "It was just a joke." Emma's mouth trembled. "They sound normal." "But I saw him," Ellie hissed. "His face, his body. He wasn't playing." Their minds raced, trying to reason with what they knew and what they were hearing. It didn't make sense. "Maybe it wasn't real," Emma whispered, but even as she said it, her voice betrayed her. Footsteps padded into the living room. "Guys," Zay called gently, "we're playing. Just come out." Ellie couldn't help herself. Slowly, cautiously, she turned the flashlight back on, just a sliver of beam to guide her. She inched forward to peek around the corner of the island, and there they were, two shadows, standing near the hallway entrance, perfectly still. From a distance, they looked just like Zay and Micah, same posture, same build, as if they were waiting patiently, like friends do. Emma joined her at the edge of the counter, squinting at the silhouettes. I think it's them," she said, voice trembling. Ellie took a step forward, pulling Emma with her. Then they saw it. Something stepped into the light behind the boys, tall, thin, and impossibly wrong. The demon. It stood hunched over, its back arched like it hadn't stood straight in centuries. Its arms dangled long and unnatural, like twisted wire under pale, papery skin. Its eyes gleamed faintly in the dark, not glowing, but reflecting light in a way that eyes shouldn't. And in its long, skeletal hands it held a camera, a plastic photo booth-style camera, scratched and worn. The strap hung limp around its neck, swaying gently with each tiny movement. Then, click. The flash went off. No warning, just white light and that soft, mechanical whir of the camera shutter. The girls screamed. They turned as one and bolted, feet slamming against the floor, breath catching in their throats. "Back! Back! Back!" Ellie screamed. "To the closet!" They tore through the kitchen, aiming for the staircase corner where they had hidden before. But the floor was a minefield of chaos now, shoes, crusts, the open pizza box. As they reached the tile near the pantry, Emma's foot caught the edge of a fallen garlic knot box. She slipped, hard. Her legs flew out from under her, and her momentum carried her sideways, right into the counter's sharp metal corner. Crack. Her head hit with a deep, awful thud. She collapsed to the floor, limbs twitching once before going still. "Emma!" Ellie dropped beside her sister, hands shaking. Blood was already pooling fast beneath her head. Ellie let out a choked sob, brushing her hair from her face. "No, no, 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 please, no." She shook her, slapped her gently, but Emma didn't move. Her eyes were half open, fixed, empty. Ellie backed away slowly, falling to her knees as the truth settled in. The reality, heavy and sharp. Then she heard it again. Click. The flash. Somewhere behind her. She turned, mouth open in terror. But the hallway was empty. Only the shadows remained, and the soft echo of a smile too wide to be human. Chapter 9. The room felt like it was closing in. Ellie sat frozen on the floor beside Emma's lifeless body, her chest heaving with every breath. Her flashlight lay beside her, its beam rolling slowly in a lazy arc across the blood-speckled floor. "Why?" she whispered. "Why are you doing this?" The house responded only with silence, until a shuffle, a creak, and then a sound like laughter, but without breath, without rhythm. Then, from the dark hallway, "Cheese." Ellie's head snapped up. The demon stepped into view. The same crooked body, the same wide, painted-on smile. Its eyes gleamed like camera lenses, glossy and unblinking, and now its face was changing. With tiny twitches, its mouth curved higher, mimicking different smiles, each one slightly wrong, as if it had been watching humans and trying to replicate emotions it didn't understand. Grin, frown, toothy smirk, open-mouthed glee. Each expression shifted too fast, like stop-motion clay jerking from one face to another. "Cheese," it whispered again. Then, click. The camera flashed. Ellie let out a scream, pushing herself backward and slipping on the slick tile. "Why are you doing this? What do you want?" The demon stepped closer. "Cheese." Its voice was like static wrapped in syrup, both slow and crackling, like it had never learned how to speak. Click, flash, click, flash. The creature began to stalk her, each step soft, precise, and followed by another grotesque photo. Ellie screamed again and got to her feet, running toward the hallway. The demon followed. She ran through the house, into the living room, over the couch, through the kitchen again, her flashlight bouncing violently in her grip. Everywhere she turned, click, flash. She rounded the corner by the stairs, sprinting toward the back door, only to find it still locked tight. She spun around and threw a lamp at the creature as it approached. The lamp shattered. The demon didn't flinch. Its camera clicked again. Ellie bolted, heading upstairs, maybe a window, maybe the attic, something. She turned too fast. Her shoulder clipped the railing. She tripped hard, slamming onto the steps. Her flashlight flew from her hand and bounced down the stairs, blinking erratically. She scrambled up, dizzy and limping, pushing toward the second-floor hallway. The thing was still behind her. "Stop!" she screamed. "Please stop!" But it didn't. Click. Flash. It was recording her fear, like it was building an album, a trophy case. She reached the hallway bathroom, heart pounding, and slammed the door shut behind her. It clicked softly as it closed. She backed away from the door, hands trembling. Then she turned and tripped. She'd forgotten the slick floor from earlier. Her foot landed wrong on the damp tiles, sliding out from beneath her. Crack! Her head hit the toilet tank edge, sharp, ceramic, with a sickening thud. She dropped instantly, unmoving. Outside the bathroom, the demon stood silently, camera at its chest. It didn't enter. It didn't need to. Instead, it reached into its neck strap pouch and pulled out a photo strip. 4 smiling faces. Then it slid the strip into the door frame and pressed the camera shutter one final time. Click. Chapter 10. The Investigation. The sun rose slow and soft over the quiet neighborhood, casting long shadows over wet driveways and silent porches. The twins' house stood still, just another home on the block, blinds drawn, door shut, yard perfectly trimmed. At 9:47 in the morning, a silver sedan pulled into the driveway. Marla and Vincent pulled in, fresh from their overnight trip upstate. They brought coffee, pastries, and smiles, ready to surprise their daughters with a lazy Saturday breakfast. They hadn't told the girls they were coming home early, thought it might be fun. Marla stepped out first, glancing up at the house. "Looks like they slept in," she said, balancing the pastry box. Vincent chuckled. "They probably stayed up watching that creepy movie." Marla unlocked the door, smiling as she pushed it open. "Girls? We're home." She took 2 steps inside and froze. The first thing she noticed wasn't the silence, it was the smell. Burnt plastic, metallic, thick. Vincent stepped in behind her, eyebrows creased. "Ellie? Emma?" No answer. Marla stepped into the kitchen and dropped the box of pastries. She screamed. 9:58 in the morning, the 911 call came in. Marla's voice was broken, hysterical. The dispatcher struggled to piece it together. "There's blood. Oh my God, my daughters, my husband is upstairs. Please send someone, please." Vincent had found one of the girls upstairs, Ellie. Marla had found Emma in the kitchen. Neither of them could understand what had happened. The house wasn't ransacked. There were no signs of struggle, but something was horribly wrong. 10:13 in the morning, first responders arrived. 2 paramedics and 3 officers moved quickly but cautiously through the house. They found the 4 teens, Zay, Micah, Ellie, and Emma, in different parts of the home. Zay collapsed in the bathroom, a cracked sink beside his head, a faint electrical burn on his hand. Micah, in the hallway, just outside the same bathroom, face down, hand clenched around a doorknob that scorched his palm. Emma, kitchen floor, corner of the counter slick with blood, a garlic knot box beside her. Ellie, bathroom upstairs, sprawled out near the back wall, head turned sharply from a fall. No signs of forced entry, no signs of violence. Each death could be explained. Each death seemed like an accident. And yet, nothing made sense. 11:42 in the morning, Detective Andrea Malloy arrived on scene. 20 years on the force, and she knew immediately, this wasn't normal. She walked through the house slowly, letting it speak. The kitchen table was still set with drinks. A bottle of pink wine, an uncorked whiskey mini, cups with melting ice. Pizza boxes were on the floor. The movie remote was on the couch, paused halfway through Ashen Jack. Micah's video game controller was still in his lap. "This just happened," she muttered. They were midnight. Officer Cruz joined her near the front door. "We found something weird." He held up a small plastic evidence bag. Inside was an old-fashioned photo strip, 2 boys, 2 girls, smiling wide. It was clearly taken in one of those cheap photo booths, but in the background, barely visible, were 2 glowing eyes. Malloy stared. "Where'd you find it?" "Outside. Placed near the door like someone left it behind." She flipped it over. No address, no markings, no label, no reason for it to exist. "This was taken recently. Has to be. They're wearing the same clothes they died in." 1:07 in the afternoon, a second photo strip was discovered inside a pizza box. Same image, same 4 kids. but the glowing eyes in the background were closer. Malloy laid them side by side and just stared. It's like something was watching them, getting closer. "What? You think someone added this?" Cruz asked. Malloy shook her head. "Not unless they photoshopped it and printed it with a ghost printer mid-massacre." 3:10 in the afternoon, the forensic summary came back. No signs of forced entry, no prints beyond the victims, no drugs, no alcohol in excess. Deaths labeled environmental accidents, freak accidents, that's what the report said. But Malloy stood in the hallway and felt her skin crawl. 4 different accidents, she muttered. 1 blackout, 2 fatal falls, 1 electrocution, all in less than an hour. "It doesn't line up," Cruz agreed. "Even if it was panic, this isn't how kids die. Not all 4. Not like this." Malloy wandered to the hallway mirror. She stared at herself. Something about it made her stomach knot. She turned slowly, her eyes landing on the camera flash residue still glowing faintly in the bathroom tile. "What if they weren't alone?" she whispered. 5:06 in the evening, the scene was cleared. The bodies were removed with care. The home was sealed. The parents shattered. Detective Malloy sat alone on the living room couch, holding both photo strips in her gloved hand. She looked at them again. First photo, 4 teens, 2 glowing eyes. Second photo, 4 teens, eyes. Closer. She looked up toward the hallway mirror. For just a second, just before the shadows faded from the frame, she swore she saw a 5th figure behind her. Chapter 11. The Pattern. Detective Andrea Malloy hadn't slept. Not really. She'd gotten home late, dropped her coat by the door, and tried to let the quiet of her apartment wash over her. But the stillness only reminded her of that house. The smiles, the photos, the smell of unease baked into the walls. Now it was morning again, and she was back behind the wheel, coffee in one hand, the case file open on the passenger seat beside her. 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, all friends, no drugs, no alcohol beyond a few sips. She had already read the autopsy reports 3 times. Each death still looked like a fluke. A stumble, a slip, a surge of bad luck, but 4 of them, in the same house, within 30 minutes? That didn't track. No signs of intrusion, no unknown prints, no trauma pointing to foul play. Only those photo strips, only those eyes. She parked outside the pizzeria just after 10:30 in the morning, flashing her badge as she walked through the door. The young guy behind the counter, maybe 18, skinny with a backwards cap, snapped his gum and blinked fast. "You the one that called about those kids?" he asked. "I'm here to follow up," Malloy said. "You remember them?" He nodded quickly. "Yeah, came in yesterday. 2 girls, 2 guys. Looked like high schoolers. Ordered 2 pies and garlic knots. Hung out for a bit. Seemed normal. No arguments. No one watching them. Anyone follow them out?" "Nope. They left laughing." "Anything weird about them? About that night?" The kid leaned against the counter. "Honestly, no. They looked like they were having the best night ever. Joking, flirting, like inseparable. Thought they were maybe double dating or something." Malloy glanced around the shop. Booths, soda machine, TVs playing reruns of college games. Absolutely nothing unusual. "They mention where they were headed?" she asked. The kid shrugged. "One of the girls said something like, 'Movie night at our place.' That's it." Malloy jotted it down, thanked him, and stepped back out into the street. So far, everything made sense. The kids had a normal night. No threats, no signs of stalking, no one acting off. So what happened? By the time the sun began dipping behind the downtown buildings, Malloy was on her way home. She rolled through side streets, headlights barely needed as the orange glow stretched long across pavement. She passed a group of teens on the sidewalk, laughing, chatting, carefree. Then she saw it. A photo booth, tucked between a vape shop and an old bookstore, half hidden under a flickering streetlight. It hadn't been there last week. She was sure of it. The group of teens emerged from behind the curtain just as she rolled by. 4 of them. 2 boys, 2 girls, laughing. One of them held a photo strip in their hand, waving it through the air to let it dry. Malloy hit the brakes, hard. She threw the car in park and got out. "Hey!" she called, flashing her badge. "Sorry, I need to see that." The teens looked startled. "Is something wrong?" Malloy didn't answer. She gently took the photo strip from the boy's hand and held it up to the light. There they were, 4 smiling kids, and behind them, 2 eyes, glowing, watching. Malloy's chest tightened. It was the same background, the same shadowy figure, the same impossible presence behind the smiles. Only now it was in a different part of town, and alive. Chapter 12. The Strip of the Dead. Detective Andrea Malloy stood alone on the sidewalk. The teens had wandered off, chatting nervously after she returned the photo strip. She told them everything was fine, just part of an ongoing investigation. But she could feel their unease. She shared it. Now it was just her in the booth. It looked like it had been dragged from the past and dropped here like a bad dream. Faded red panels, cracked plastic roof, a flickering sign above it that said, "Take a memory." She walked around it slowly, eyes scanning for any kind of label. No manufacturer, no sticker, no serial number, no power cord. The booth wasn't plugged into anything. "How the hell is it running?" she muttered. She stepped closer, lifted her flashlight and aimed it at the back. Metal bolts, seams, nothing to suggest recent installation. In fact, it looked like it had been here for years. Weather-worn, scratched. But she'd driven down this street every week for a decade. It had never been here. She pressed her hand to the side panel. It was cold. Then she stepped back and called it in. "Dispatch, this is Detective Malloy. I need a sweep team down to 8th and Franklin. There's an unregistered structure here. Looks like an abandoned photo booth, but it's operational. No markings. Might be connected to the Harmon Street case." "Copy," the dispatcher replied. ETA 15, Malloy exhaled and turned back toward the curtain. It fluttered slightly in the breeze. She hesitated, then stepped inside. The air was stale, smelled like dust and old paper. She sat down on the torn vinyl seat, narrowing her eyes at the tiny camera above the screen. It didn't look like any model she'd ever seen. No countdown timer, no price menu, no start button, just a screen, black and blank. She reached for her phone, intending to take a picture. Then, flash. A blinding white burst hit her directly in the face. The shutter sound popped like a gunshot. She jolted. Shit! Heart racing, she scrambled out of the booth, instinctively reaching for her holster. Nothing followed her. No shadows, no movement. Just the whir of the old printer. A photo strip slid out with a mechanical groan. Malloy stepped forward, pulse thudding in her ears. The strip was warm. She lifted it slowly and froze. It wasn't her picture, not the one that had just been taken. Instead, it showed 4 people, not her, staring out with smiles. The same 4 faces from the Harmon Street house. Zay, Micah, Emma, Ellie, all smiling, all alive, captured inside that booth like nothing had gone wrong. Her fingers trembled as she turned the photo over. The back was blank, except for one smudged word written in faded ink. Again. Her stomach dropped, her legs weakened. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't malfunction. This booth was a trap, a collector. And those teens who had just walked away, they were next. Chapter 13. The Forgotten One. Long before the photo booth. Long before the laughter died and the screaming began. There was a boy. He had no name, at least not one anyone used kindly. Around the traveling circus, they called him things like Shovel Boy, or filth rat. He never corrected them. He worked under the big top, but not as a performer. His job was to clean the manure from the horse stalls, to scrub the blood off the ring after failed knife acts, to pick up teeth and nails and feathers and bile. Every night, when the crowd left, smiling, he stayed behind, dragging a rusted bucket and a broken broom across the sawdust-stained floor. He was maybe 16, maybe older. No one kept track. His fingers were always cracked, his eyes sunken, and his clothes never washed, just layers of filth and faded red. He slept in a cage behind the tents, a literal cage once used for feral dogs that had been part of a failed act the year before. They didn't pay him in money. They paid him in leftover food, half-chewed turkey legs, soft apples, stale bread dipped in spoiled milk. He was forgotten, overlooked, mocked, especially by the clowns. The clowns were the worst. Not the funny kind, not really. These were traveling degenerates, failed actors, drunks, men who used paint to mask the rot of who they were. They smelled of sweat and paint thinner and permanent rage. They hated the boy. He reminded them of what they used to be, weak, alone, unwanted. So they made him a target. They threw buckets of dirty mop water on him as he passed. They smeared clown makeup on his face while he slept and laughed when he cried. They called him names. They told the horses to kick at him when he came near. And still, he stayed, because he had nowhere else to go. One night, after a sold-out show in a town no one remembers, he was limping back to his cage after sweeping the last of the manure from the animal pit. He was exhausted, hungry, cold. It was late. The lights were off, but the clowns were waiting. "Hey, shovel boy," one of them called from the shadows. "You missed a pile behind the elephant tent." He turned to apologize, but before he could speak, they jumped him. 5 of them. Boots, fists, laughter that echoed like bells in a funhouse. They beat him until he stopped moving. Then one of them pointed to the nearby photo booth, a donation from a local vendor who had set up during the circus's stay. "Stuff him in it," one of the clowns said, giggling. "For memories," another added, slurring. They dragged his barely conscious body across the dirt and forced him inside. He didn't fight. He couldn't. They pushed his head up. "Smile," they said. Click. A photo printed. His face was swollen, one eye already shut. Click. They posed beside him now, mocking, holding up peace signs, crossing their eyes. Click. They laughed. He bled. Then he stopped breathing. They didn't know what to do. They panicked. No hospitals, no police. The circus moved every week, so they did what cowards do. They sealed the booth, nailed it shut from the inside, dragged it into the woods behind the fairgrounds, and buried it upright, like a coffin, like a joke. The forest grew over it. The circus moved on. No one spoke his name because no one had ever given him one. But rage remembers, pain remembers, and grief doesn't rot the way a body does. Some say his soul stayed trapped in the photo booth, staring at those pictures in the dark, feeling the cold metal wrap around his bones. Some say the camera became his eye. That every year on the anniversary of that night, the booth resurfaces, somewhere random. It doesn't matter where, it just appears. And once someone steps inside, once that shutter clicks, once that flash goes off, it's too late. Because now he has your photo. And once he has your photo, he has you. He doesn't kill out of cruelty. He kills out of memory. You didn't lock him in that box. You didn't bury him in dirt. But you smiled the same way they did, and for that, you die. Author's note: thank you so much for reading Shuttered Souls. This story started with a single twisted idea, and because of your support, it became something truly terrifying. I hope it kept you up at night, made you glance twice at the shadows, and made you think twice before stepping into a photo booth. If you enjoyed this book, I'd love for you to join the growing community of readers and horror lovers at Together We Fear. That's where you'll find behind-the-scenes content, story updates, cover reveals, and everything coming next in this haunted world. Book 2 is already in the works. New town, new faces, same booth, and this time, it wants more than just a photo. Thank you again for supporting independent horror and helping these stories live beyond the page. Keep your eyes open and never, ever smile for the wrong camera. Poe Nocturne.